All right, Harry. In Luke chapter 6, we read about Jesus' teachings here, and he says this in verse 46. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? How does this all tie into salvation?
Well, in the Old Testament, God gave through Moses the people of Israel a whole set of Mosaic laws, the teachings of how they were supposed to live, and all the steps and so on. And Jesus also gave us about 150 teachings that he expects us to use. And quite often we think, well, this is grace and other things, but actually, I think of Psalm 1, verse 2. It says, "The righteous man, his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night." So the focus is that these rules or teachings that Jesus has given us, they are given to us because they do us well. They'll give us an understanding of the mind of Christ. I think of my own parents. They had rules for us as we're growing up, and I understood that that was structurally good. I was glad I lived in a family that had structure. My own kids, we had rules, and because we loved them, we wanted them to grow up strong and sensible and so on. Give you another example. In a soccer game, do they have clear rules there?
Yeah, they definitely have rules and that you have to abide to play the game.
So what if the referees were on strike? Would that matter?
That would, because there would be no one there to judge the game or tell people when they're doing something wrong.
But they know the players know the rules and stuff like that. That wouldn't be that important, would it?
It just doesn't make the game any fun, right? Or else everybody's just cheating and all that stuff.
Yeah, so Jesus gave us rules for the same reason, so that we'd have structure, something to go by, and yes, and also to test us to see if we're serious about walking with Him. And actually, they're really healthy for us. Like a simple example is, do not worry, is one of the simple rules Jesus gave us in Matthew 6. Why did He give us that one?
Well, he gave us that so that it's like disrespectful to God in a way. If you're saying I'm a child of God, but every time you go outside or you do something and you're always worried, what's my finances going to be like? Am I going to have transportation? That's kind of showing that your faith isn't in God, that he will lean not on your own understanding, but acknowledge him in all your ways. But I think that's what it's about. What do you think?
Yeah, and it's a sin, because He told us, do not worry, I've got it. You're a child of God, you're good.
And what about
Uh,
this, Harry? How many Christians do you think do worry on a regular basis?
Most of them, and it's not good. That's just one example. And yet, if they would not worry and trust Jesus, their lives would be a whole lot better, and they would be
Filled
obedient.
with fruit of the spirit, you'd get that peace, right? The love, joy, and peace right there. You get all of that, the peace of mind. It goes hand in hand with even not worrying.
Yeah, and so if we surrender to Him, the worries would go away. Just as a simple example. Go ahead.
All right. And so this is why he said, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? As for everyone who comes to me and hears my words and puts them into practice, I will show you what they are like. Are we to put the teachings of Jesus into practice?
Yeah, that's just like the Old Testament. That's the groundwork. Now that by itself, just being obedient, but actually it's a combination. If we live a surrendered life, we'll automatically understand them. They'll be written on our hearts, and we will understand what He expects from us. But we do have to think about it. But He does. This is part of the test: is being obedient to His teaching.
All right. Verse 48. They are like a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundation on rock. When a flood came and the torrent struck that house, but could not shake it because it was well built. So, what is the rock in this case? Is the rock Jesus or his teachings?
It's obedience to His teachings.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, so the obedience to His teachings, that is the rock. I always thought it was just Jesus, not just Jesus, but it's obedience to His teaching, and well, that's yeah, and that is
The
everything.
importance of it, right? Building that house, because then it even gives us a solution. Because when the problems of the world come and hit us, we lose our job, but we've built our foundation on the teachings of Christ. We're not worried. It goes back to that example of do not worry. We know God will provide for us. Verse 49. But the one who hears my words and does not put them into practice is like a man who built his house on the ground without a foundation. The moment the torrent struck that house, it collapsed and its destruction was complete. So we do see the negative results of not being obedient to his teachings as well. Do you have any final comments?
Yeah, let's think about those houses. Okay, one was built on the rock and one was built just on the dirt. Well, how do the looks of both houses compare?
Well, they're both pretty much the same when you think about it. Just you can't see the foundation. You'd be awed by the prettiness on the outside of it, we'll say.
Yeah, and so the house that is now leaning because it's not on the foundation, what's it worth?
It's not worth anything. And it's just all because that storm came. We'll just use that example of do not worry. And like I said, you lose your job. The Christian who built this house on the rock is firm and in the faith and says, I know God will provide. It doesn't matter. No point in getting angry and living outside of the fruit of the Spirit, but they have that love, joy, and peace. But the person who is built on the sand is going to be like, what am I going to do now? How am I going to be able to pay my rent, etc., etc.
Right. And so it comes down to obedience, right?
It does. It comes down to
And
obedience.
let's go to the when King Saul, when God gave him instructions and he wasn't happy with King Saul, what was the problem?
King Saul did not fulfill all of what God told him to do. He did most of it. He did a really good big chunk of it, but he didn't do everything that God commanded him.
Right. It takes complete obedience. And then and that is really critical. And he replaced him. He got rid of him and he put David in place. David had his faults, but he loved the Lord and he was obedient and did everything the Lord told him to do. Interestingly, in the churches today, which is most focused on the praise and worship or the obedience part?
The praise and worship, the sacrifice.
Yeah. But without the obedience, what do you got?
Nothing.
No. And how much is the obedience focused on? It's not a big item. And that is a real big concern. All the praise and worship and Amos, it talks there about, it says, I despise your religious feasts. I cannot stand your assemblies, even though you bring me burnt offerings, though you bring me choice fellowship offerings, I have no regard for them. Away with the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the music of your harps, but let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-ending stream. You know, the Old Testament, God got tired of their choices, obedience, and he doesn't want to listen to the songs. He wants surrender, obedience, and loving him. That's what he's looking for.
Amen. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you.